Hi, I'm Jessica. I have my outline and my note cards.
Forgot about this.
And my audience.
That was a good wave. Oh.
President Kennedy was the 35th President of the United States and the 4th presidential assassination in the nation. November of 2013 marked the 50-year anniversary of his death, and the importance of his presidency is evident with the prevention of nuclear war, the establishment of the Peace Corps, and the setting the goal for landing a man on the moon. I'm Jessica Hume, and I'm a Kennedy enthusiast. The story of his presidency is diluted with controversy, and his assassination is no different. According to Mike.com, more than 2,000 books have been written about the event and the details surrounding it. An ABC News poll found that 70% of Americans also believe that his death was part of a larger plot. Many researchers, conspiracy theorists, and the general public have created reasonable doubt in regards to who is actually responsible for the Kennedy assassination. To begin, President Kennedy was assassinated while riding in a motorcade through Dealey Plaza in Dallas, Texas. According to the JFK Presidential Library and Museum, Kennedy traveled to Texas to do some political planning for the upcoming election year. Though he hadn't announced his candidacy for the next year, he had some planning and public appearances to do. He wanted to really hone in on the conservation efforts, education, and world peace to win the Texas votes. After a few meetings, he and Mrs. Kennedy, who was there to show support after they had just lost a child, got into a convertible limousine on their way through downtown Dallas, this being their next stop for a famous Kennedy speech. As you can see, they are in this car in their motorcade. As the motorcade passed by the Texas School Book Depository, shots were fired. The president had been hit with one shot to the head and another to his throat. The motorcade quickly continued on and changed their route to the Parkland Memorial Hospital, where he was pronounced dead at 1 p.m. Now, I've discussed the details of the assassination, and now I'll introduce you to the only suspect in the case, Lee Harvey Oswald. Lee Harvey Oswald, biography states that Oswald was a recently hired employee at the Texas Book Depository. He was formerly a member of the U.S. Marine Corps who eventually defected to the Soviet Union. He got married to a quaint Russian woman, had a child, and decided that he didn't really like the Soviet Union either. So he moved back to Texas, a communist, and set up a life for himself in Dallas. Oswald was working at the book depository the day the president's processional was due through town. He was seen on the 6th floor holding his rifle around the time of the shooting, this being a picture of his rifle. He was also seen leaving the scene and eventually confronted by a police officer, who he also allegedly shot and killed. Oswald was arrested and charged for the murder of the president and police officer, but unfortunately he would never be tried for his crimes. During a transfer between police headquarters and the county jail, he was killed by a nightclub owner, Jack Ruby, who said he was outraged by the assassination of the president. So now that I've talked about the sole suspect of the case, let's talk about the controversy surrounding the event. The Kennedy assassination is one of the most controversial cases in American history. USA Today calls the Kennedy assassination the baby boomers' 9/11. Anyone of intellectual age in 1963 can answer the question, where were you when President Kennedy was shot? It almost appears that there are more questions than there are answers. Did Oswald actually kill the president? And if so, did he do it alone? What about all those witnesses on the grassy knoll that watched the procession go through? Was there another shooter from there? Was the CIA involved? Or the KGB? The Warren Commission, a group put into place by Lyndon B. Johnson to investigate the assassination, produced a nearly 900-page report that concluded that Oswald was a lone assassin. And it's not just to the American public that was skeptical about the findings of this report. Another commission, the Rockefeller Commission, later deduced that there was enough evidence to implicate the CIA in the death of the president. And then again, in 2014, a mafia hitman announced in an interview with Newsmax TV that he was the one who killed JFK from the grassy knoll, along with other mafia members. This man even went on to explain specific details about a bullet casing that he left at the scene, which was found years later, buried in the same spot that he said that he left it. So with so much information to sift through, during a time when quality video didn't really exist, will we ever know the truth? So let's separate the facts from the assumptions. The only basic facts that we know are that the president was hit, wounded in the back, the throat, and the head. A rifle and bullet shells were found at the scene of the crime, where Oswald had been. Oswald is on record as having bought the rifle prior to the event, and eyewitnesses place him on the 6th floor of the book depository, shooting said rifle. Based on what we know for sure, there are far more questions being raised than answers provided. Outside of conspiracy theories, investigators stated that it was impossible for Oswald to have fired 3 shots in the time frame that he did, contradicting the lone gunman theory. The Warren Commission could also not demonstrate that Oswald had committed the act alone. Tests were conducted on the rifle and found that in the present state that it was in, it could not function the way that it said that it did. They didn't even find any residual gunpowder on Oswald, which would most certainly indicate that this could be a setup. So, in conclusion, the Kennedy assassination is one of the most controversial cases in American history, and the evidence proves its controversy. The president was most definitely assassinated, and Oswald was the only suspect, despite a later confession. But the truth of that will never be uncovered, because he was murdered just 2 days later. Is the truth really out there? Did the government organize a cover-up? Was the confession really true? All we have are endless books, conspiracy theories, and made-for-TV movies to help us along in the fight for truth, so we may never know. Thank you.